This is Joey Ryan, and you're listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. What's up, Justin?
Come on, man. We can't do this show like every other show, Stu. We got to do it like it's the first time this has ever happened, because this is the first time it's ever... Let me open up with this before you go into everything else, right?
Okay.
When we first started this, people were like, do we really need a show about professional wrestling? People kind of laughed. People kind of just really shrugged at the idea. But guess what? What was the only thing running this whole week? Professional wrestling.
That's true.
And you know the only show on the whole radio station that covers it? Just happens to be these two guys.
Just happens to be us. Yeah, that's right. So it has been a weird week and a half.
So you know where to send the check, because we're working overtime.
That's right. Genuine Austin Radio Network. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff amazingly to talk about when it comes to wrestling, and to help us sort all of it out, joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, our dear friend from the Sporting News, Brian Fritz. Follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. Hello, Brian. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, and what has to be one of the weirdest and most unique weeks of my life.
I think anybody connected to pro wrestling, whether it's wrestlers, promoters, journalists, media, I think we could all easily say this is, and the term that has been used for everything, not just wrestling, but everything that has been a result of the response to the COVID-19 outbreak, is uncharted territory. Wouldn't you agree? This is absolutely uncharted territory.
It's uncharted territory. It's weird. It's strange. It's unique. It's flat out weird in a lot of different ways. I mean, especially as a wrestling fan, when you turn on wrestling on a Monday or a Friday night, and we're about to experience it on a Wednesday, where you're watching a wrestling show that has wrestlers coming out and there's no fans in the building.
Yeah, and we've seen like single matches, just one-off matches. The Rock and Mankind from Halftime Heat in '99. There's been a couple of Kurt Angle. Was it Kurt Angle and who was it in TNA that did it? There was somebody else. I'm trying to remember who was his opponent, but that was an empty. But it was one match, and that was just the stipulation. You didn't have a whole card. But now we're having whole shows, and we're about to have the biggest show in pro wrestling, WrestleMania, without fans. And it's moved. Oh, by the way, they've moved it. So no Raymond James Stadium. We're not going to see like an RKO off the pirate ship. We're now going to see it from the Performance Center with no fans. When that news broke, your first reaction to that?
My first reaction is it really WrestleMania if there's no fans, there's no pomp and circumstance, there's no hoopla that goes along with a WrestleMania as we've come to expect every year? I mean, I was a little bit surprised by that announcement that they're going forward with WrestleMania on April 5th, but they're only doing it at the Performance Center with no fans. And I mean, we could sit here and play armchair quarterback about it, going, why don't you cancel it? Why don't you postpone it? But at the same time, it's just like, we don't know when life is going to go back to normal. So it's not as easy as we think. But it's going to be a very, very strange situation if, in fact, WrestleMania does take place and it's only at the Performance Center and there's not going to be any fans. There's not going to be any pyro. There's not going to be the special entrances or as, grandiose as we've seen before. It's just going to be really weird. I still am wondering if it's really going to happen. I know that we're, about a week and a half away now from WrestleMania, and who knows what could change between now and then. But it's just going to be really, really strange if they do it. And like I said, I'm like, yeah, it's WrestleMania by name, but it is not really a WrestleMania.
Well, we don't know all of that just yet, and while it might be WrestleMania in name, it's going to live up to it because the performers, these are supposed to be the best in the world at what they do. So I'm expecting them to give us one hell of a show, the best of their ability, without having fans there. And they're just making the best out of what is a really, really unforeseen situation that nobody knows how to navigate. And we're all just kind of doing this by touch, by feel. And we have to give them credit where credit is due, is the fact that they're still going out there, they're still performing. And while it's easy for fans to say, why don't you just push back WrestleMania? It means so much. It's your Super Bowl. The matter of fact is that we might not get, we're not sure, like you already mentioned, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So let this happen. Let it happen, and it's going to be a WrestleMania moment because it's going to be a first time ever.
I mean, you're right in that standpoint, Dad. You've got to give a lot of credit to the talent because they are being put, and everybody is being put in this very strange, unique situation to where they have to try to go out there in these circumstances where, you want to entertain people. You want to give them a little bit of a escape from reality. But you're doing it under these strange circumstances because, part of what makes a wrestling match in a lot of ways is the fan interaction, the live audience, and you don't have that there with you now. It just makes it more difficult. And we're starting to see from WWE when it comes to their TV shows. We saw this on SmackDown. We saw it on Raw Monday night. And we're going to see it here on NXT, is that they are trying to limit how many matches that they actually do there that are going to be live with no audience. On Monday night, they aired the entire men's Royal Rumble match.
Oh, I know.
That took up half of Raw. NXT this week, they've already said, expect never before seen interviews with talent and these deep, talent profiles. So that tells you right there, we don't want to have live matches because we don't have an audience. So it's going to be really, really strange to do a pay-per-view, and they're not going to have those elements. They're just going to have match after match. And I really wonder how that affects the show from this standpoint. Before, there was a belief that there could be as many as 14 matches at WrestleMania. They haven't announced that many matches yet. I think they've announced 7 or 8. Maybe they announce a few more. I don't think they're going to have 14. And I really wonder how long each match is going to be. Do they cut down on how long these matches are and just try to make them more intense, but keep them shorter because we don't have that fan interaction there in the building?
I'm going to run down real quick. This is the card the way it looks right now. I'm going to credit Jason, our friend Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net. He's got a pretty good concise. So basically you're looking at Brock versus Drew for the WWE title, Goldberg, Roman Reigns for the Universal title, Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler for the Raw Women's title, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair for the NXT Women's title, John Cena, Fiend, Taker, AJ Styles, Edge, Randy Orton, Last Man Standing match, and Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens.
That's 8 matches, right?
That's for 8. Yeah, so you've got 8 matches. So as you were talking about, we know WrestleMania, and you experienced it personally last year in New York or New Jersey. We know WrestleMania, they try to get everybody on. They got the Battle Royals. They got all these different multi-person matches. And it ends up being a 7-hour extravaganza if you count the pre-show. Now you have scaled it down to Performance Center, no audience. Like you said, what is the likelihood that they add more matches? Because you don't have a U.S. title match. You don't have an Intercontinental title match, although it seemed like they were going to start going towards maybe Sami Zayn versus Braun Strowman. But if you are sitting in the chair, do you put more matches on it, or do you keep it to a 3.5 hour show?
I do not put any more matches on it. If I do a pre-show, there are no matches on the pre-show. I would keep it to 8 matches. You can make that 3.5 hours, like you said. I think you've got plenty there. And yes, there's going to be some championships that are not defended. I mean, they could add a women's tag team match. They could add Bayley defending the SmackDown championship. I don't think they need to do that. And there comes a point where you've got to limit how many people are going to be there, because it's a big ask to, get your talent to travel, because there's some of them that live in Tampa or live in Orlando already. So like if talent lives in Tampa, you're talking about, an hour to 2 hour drive to go to Orlando. So at least you don't have to fly, and you can limit, your interaction with other people. But, we all know that we're supposed to be practicing social distancing. You don't want more than 50 people together in the gathering. Like you're already talking about, like even if they run a skeleton crew when it comes to production, who's going to be there, booking the show, all the talent that's going to be there. I mean, you're talking probably already 50 people, or close to it when it comes to, you add all the talent they're going to be on the show. If you're talking about just those 8 matches.
Well, don't you think the people that are going to be there probably found a way to get tested? Or are you thinking that the talent that will be on hand probably hasn't been administered that test?
I don't know, and that's one of the big questions. It's like, have they already gone through testing? Here's another question that I don't have the answer to, and I really wonder about. What if we find out days later after somebody's already been at the Performance Center, whether it's a wrestler, whether it's a production person, whether it's whoever, but it's somebody who was at the Performance Center. What if we find out on Friday that somebody who was there for Raw tests positive, and you find out days later? Okay, what do they do then? Like, everybody that was in the building that night has to be tested. Can they even go forward at that point, not only with a WrestleMania, but can they even do shows at the Performance Center at that point? Like, you have to then shut down your live TV and find other programming, other ways to fill that time? I don't know. I mean, and that's one of the big questions, because we've heard plenty of instances where somebody says they feel fine, they're not showing any symptoms, but then you don't know for days later, 3, 4, 5 days later that, they tested positive. And even then, maybe we don't know, even if they're only starting to show symptoms, because they can't get their hands on a test. Yeah. So there's so many different questions that go into this, so many different variables. I mean, I don't even know. They've run very small crews, obviously, on their TV shows so far, but with WrestleMania, there's going to be more. I mean, I almost wonder if, like, state, county, city official says, no, we don't want you to have that many people there. Like, if they did that, what would they do?
Yeah,
would WWE said adhere to that, or would they go against that guideline?
It's a distinct possibility. We're talking with Brian Fritz from the Sporting News. Follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. I thought I saw somewhere, it may have been a wrestler or somebody that said they were doing the kind of a minimal screening to even get into the Performance Center. And by that, I mean, it's basically take temperature via the little gun thing that they point to your forehead. And as long as your temperature doesn't read, beyond normal, you should be okay. But you're right. You gotta think about the the worst possibility, because that's what the time we're in. As far as could, heaven forbid, one of the wrestlers test positive, and it may not have nothing to do with the Performance Center, maybe in their everyday life. So one of the theories that I've heard, because you heard that this Friday night on SmackDown, I believe Goldberg and Roman Reigns are going to be there for a face-off. What's the possibility that they pre-tape a match or two where they can tape it there, and then you don't have to bring them back on April 5.
I think that would be a very interesting thing to do, and probably a very smart thing to do, because that way you can minimize interaction. I mean, are we really going to know if it looks that much different? I mean, I don't know how much they can do when it comes in the way of basically decorating the set for WrestleMania, and I don't know what they want to do there at the Performance Center. I guess it just depends on like what kind of signage they would have. Would they even try to do any kind of like special entrances or anything? But I think that would be a very smart decision.
I think it'd be a lot like your first Christmas away from home as a single man, where you just have like the one little tree. You acknowledge the fact that it's happening and you try your best. You might put some tinsel up or something, but you're not going all grandiose. It's just one of those things, or grandiose rather. It's just going to be one of those things that it's kind of like saying when you're wanting to go out for New Year's Eve and you have that girlfriend that doesn't want to go out. She's like, oh, we're just going to keep it simple, maybe some champagne.
How much has WWE even changed their show going from SmackDown last Friday to this past Monday Night's Raw, where on SmackDown, talent was coming out and they were still doing their poses like they would in front of fans, which was very, very weird.
Nikki Cross trying to hype up a crowd that wasn't there. That was
right.
Fantastic.
But I mean, everybody was coming out and doing their normal poses, and I was just like, okay, that is just odd.
May
and
I
then
ask this?
on Monday night, nobody really posed. Everybody just kind of booked it to the ring that was there live.
Yeah, that was the fastest Undertaker's walked in like 20 years.
Like what is our age gap here again? Because like to me it doesn't look that odd, because I grew up playing the video games before they got better graphics and better entrances. So like this whole stage in front of no sound stuff, it kind of reminds me of the old N64 games that weren't built very well.
How dare you say that? No Mercy is the greatest wrestling video game of all time.
Oh, no, that one's great, but I'm thinking more like Warzone.
Oh, Warzone. Yeah, that's a different
like if you
story.
played it on the N64, you had no entrances, and then the PlayStation had like the entrance walkway with the Titantron. But like, yeah, that's how I grew up. So I was like, oh, watching them do it in real life is just kind of like my video game come to life,
Right. But it just seems so weird. Like we're so used to guys doing these big, huge entrances, and like they did that on SmackDown. Like guys are coming out and they like pose a little bit or whatever, and it's just like, you're not posing to anybody, so this is kind of odd. And then on Monday night, it was just like, we're not doing any poses, except for Edge. Like Edge came out, put his hands up, and it was just like, that's it. I got to promo it.
You got to do it,
But I like that because it helps engage me into the fact that we're watching a show. It's like it's like watching Married with Children and Ed O'Neill not acting like Al Bundy. I mean, like the show's taking place, but if he doesn't act like Al Bundy, is it Married with Children? I guess that goes
back to my initial argument. Is it really WrestleMania if you don't have pyro and thousands of fans, and you don't have pomp and circumstance and all that stuff?
Like I said, I was looking forward to somebody pulling a move off the pirate ship, and now we're not going to have that.
You don't know what we're going to have.
Let's do this. Let's go this way. So,
by the way, I'll give I'll give a suggestion. You know how they had Asuka was doing commentary on Raw.
Fantastic.
Okay. Why don't we have Asuka and Big E in the crowd opposite the hard camera for the entirety of WrestleMania?
See, and that's what I was thinking too. Yes. I wanted wrestlers in the crowd watching the craft, but that would break the fourth wall way too much.
Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, at this point, it's just
entertain me, man.
And put Triple H back on commentary too, because oh my God.
I mean, Asuka going crazy in the crowd. Big E could have a tub of popcorn and be like throwing it all over the place.
Oh, good Lord.
Whatever. I mean, just, I don't know.
Because like when Cena was backstage watching the production and stuff from the crowd and WWE shared that on Twitter, I was like, well, why don't you just put him on and let him watch the other guys wrestle? He's not like a full-time wrestler. It'd be great.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel bad for some of these wrestlers, especially people that like, I mean, WrestleMania is a big deal for these talents. Right. I mean, imagine if there's somebody like a Drew Galloway who's worked so hard to get only kind of get his career back on track, but he has dreamed of always being in the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's the first time I
being a top guy, and now he has that opportunity. But I mean, this is not the WrestleMania he expected.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So let's go in a different direction. So let's talk storylines. Does WWE, because I'm sure they've got title changes planned. They've got some storylines they want to blow off and all that good stuff. Does that change with the notion that WrestleMania is in the Performance Center? It's going to look outside of, branding and logoing. It's going to look like Raw and SmackDown have looked the last week. Will they change? Do you think they could change storylines? They could delay title changes?
I think that they will definitely change maybe some of the more shocking, friendly changes that they might have had planned, that like Zack Ryder style moment that would really have shocked the crowd because you won't have the crowd. However, the reason why they're not postponing WrestleMania is for this very reason, because they've already had a lot of this stuff set up in mind, written, 3-4 SummerSlam down the road. They're always building. They always have a plan unless somebody gets hurt or somebody gets suspended or somebody.
Wait, Justin, do you really think they have a lineup kind of in their minds already for what SummerSlam is going to be?
I think so. I think they really do.
You've got more faith in WWE than I do, and most fans.
Yeah, no.
I'm not sure they knew what was going to happen at WrestleMania until about a month ago.
I mean, like, all the stuff on the undercard, yeah, like, they obviously that's always subject to change,
the undercard,
right?
I didn't think they knew what they were going to do with the Universal title until right before, what was the Super Showdown?
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
I didn't feel that way at all.
I don't think they're going to change anything when it comes to what they want to do at Mania. It's just maybe with some of the secondary titles, maybe they won't do some of the things they're going to do, or they delay it, or they change direction because maybe some of those matches aren't even going to take place now, at Mania. But when it comes to like their major plans, I don't know. So say we thought that like Drew was going to win the title. Okay, he's going to beat Brock Lesnar. Do you want to do that moment on that stage where there's no fans, or do you want to find a way to where he gets a rematch? It's a SummerSlam with the hopes that things are back to normal then, that you're doing SummerSlam at the scheduled time in front of a packed stadium, arena in Boston come August. And you could do it then, and if you want to do the title change, you do it then because you're going to have, this rabid crowd. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, that's a tough one, and it's a very tough position that they're all being put in right now.
Yeah, I imagine you.
Well, you kind of alluded to it already, is the fact that we don't know when things are going to return to normal. So if they already had this planned, if Drew is going to win the title, I can't foresee them trying to delay that when he's at his all-time peak, because 2-3 months from now, nobody may care.
That's the thing. We don't know what the future is going to be. We don't know if things are going to go back to normal in 6 weeks or if it's going to be 6 months. We don't even know if they're going to be able to continue to do live shows at the Performance Center. It's kind of this moment by moment booking right now, and you never know when things could shift dramatically on what they can and cannot do.
I had two ideas real quick here. One, to kind of solve the issues of fans in the stands, and I think only the WWE could actually pull this off. Could we have interactive screens set up in those chairs where they can pipe in like crowd reaction from home of people that are watching it on the network, like off of Skype or something? Like that you would think, if you think anybody can pull this off, it would be them, right?
I don't know how much money that would cost, but that would be incredible.
That'd be a lot of.
But like, how cool will it be if WWE was like, okay, maybe they don't have the screens, but if they were willing to connect everybody to like the loud feed over the air, so you could hear like your wrestling brother or sister or them, whatever you want to refer to them, like your fellow wrestling fan from across the world. You can at least hear them yelling or booing.
Well, can you imagine if they did something like this? I mean, we've seen that before. We've seen like those, movable, objects or whatever. I can't even think of what they would be, but the stick on wheels kind of a thing, and then you attach a tablet. What if you did something like that and you just place those out in the crowd?
Exactly.
And then like maybe people like
they can just filter through people.
There's a random drawing or something where you get picked for this, where they alternate after every match, or maybe they can even do something where they like to get one of those spots you have to pay for it, but that money goes to charity. Well, they'd never give that money to charity. But I mean,
WWE, come on.
There's if they had the technology to do it, but I mean, that would be a massive undertaking in a short period of time.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of would be lag time on feeds because especially WWE Network, some people's Wi-Fi is better than others, so I think that could be the one obstacle that you might run into.
One of many obstacles, but I mean,
True.
It's a good idea to think about.
That's true. He is Brian Fritz. He writes for Sporting News. Follow him on Twitter at Brian Fritz. Brian, as always, a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. All the best to you. Stay safe. Wash your hands, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, you too, and I hope you guys are not sitting too close together.
That's
a lot of stuff to consider. It's going to be weird. It's going to be, again, the phrase that keeps coming up, uncharted territory over the next several weeks, and we'll keep you up to date on all of that. So our thanks to Brian Fritz for joining us. When we come back from this timeout, this COVID-19 outbreak not only impacting WWE and AEW, but a huge impact on independent promoters. Justin Bissonnette, or Biss as we love to call him, from Inspire Pro Wrestling. He's going to join us by phone to talk about the impact on independent promoters and especially all those independent events that were going to happen in Tampa. All that coming up next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Hey, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. As we mentioned before the break, WWE, AEW, not the only ones feeling the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Independent promoters are really, really feeling those effects. One of them joins us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. He is our good friend, the co-owner of Inspire Pro Wrestling, based right here in Austin, Texas. Justin Bissonnette, we love to call him Biss. What's up, Biss?
Not much, man. I'm all things considered doing fairly well. So healthy, can't complain.
Well, good to hear, man. Let's talk for a second about how this is affecting promoters. You, as I said, you're the co-promoter for Inspire Pro Wrestling with our good friend Max Meehan. Kind of walk us through the emotions of when this is happening and the different bans on events and gatherings of 50 or more people. Just, kind of walk us through what that means for someone like you that would be, getting ready to promote, say, Inspire had a event coming up, in the next month or so.
Yeah, definitely. And, we've had 2 events in the past month, about month and a half, that have been affected. So it's sort of a mix of shock, and then there's also this weird thing where you just kind of put your head down and go, okay, well, what's next? What do we do? Okay, so now we can't have 150 people. So, like, for example, some of the other promoters, are okay. Well, we'll sell 140 tickets. Well, now we can't only have 50 people. Well, that means that I can't have a show because I can't charge enough to actually recoup the cost. So now we're kind of in this phase where, okay, there is no next step. So I think we're all sort of dealing with that. Like, okay, so we're not going to be able to have a show. So what do we do in the meantime? How do we generate content? What do we do to keep ourselves afloat in the meantime? And
to give the listeners an idea, when you're talking about recouping expenses, we're not just talking booking the wrestlers, right? There's everything from booking the wrestlers to booking the venue. Kind of go through kind of a laundry list of the different expenses that a typical show would incur. Say we just had
basically
New
things
Ecstasy
that
of Gold. Talk about the typical expenses that you incur running a show like New Ecstasy of Gold that happened in January.
Yeah, I mean, square one is usually the wrestling ring itself. I always like to joke that the ring is the most expensive thing that doesn't bring a single fan in the door, you know. But you can't have the show without it, right? So first of all, you have to have a ring. You have to you start there. It goes to, you know, then you need to have chairs, the building, of course, and then if you're operating at a level like Inspire Pro does, we're usually bringing in, you know, anywhere from 2, 3, or 4, sometimes more talent from out of state. So now you're looking at airplanes, plane tickets, and then once they get here, hotel and board, and then transportation for that talent to and from the show. Then you get into your local talent, and it kind of works its way down the line from there.
Talking with Justin Bissonnette, Biss from Inspire Pro Wrestling. So you mentioned, you know, you've had 2 events. We had the event that was coinciding with South by Southwest, tied into the David Arquette documentary premiering here in Austin during that. And then, you know, Inspire Pro was one of the 5 Texas promotions that was a part of Texas Forever, which was going to be part of the GCW collective down in Tampa coming up in a couple weeks. Talk for a second about losing that event. I know that, you know, again, there's you know, Jeff Serta from Sabotage, Bartek from New Texas Pro, you know, our friend Rogelio from Lucha Brutal, and then Darren from Heavy Metal. So I've got to imagine you guys kind of, it was a collective just drop of your stomach to find out that, in fact, this isn't going to happen. Talk for a second about that. And I think I saw something where they're hoping to maybe redo this set of shows at a later date.
Yeah, definitely. And for us, yeah, it kind of, we had the benefit of going through this with the South by show. And then it was just kind of a nightmare that, oh, this is going to go on. Like, this could affect Tampa. And then to slowly start seeing things get canceled. And, you know, once the NBA season got put on hold, it was a real eye opener that, okay, this is very serious. Like, this is going to affect Tampa. And yeah, it was a kick to the gut. And just slowly but surely it became very apparent that it was just a matter of time. You know, Brett Lauderdale, who runs the collective, has worked extremely hard and was fighting right up to the last second to be able to still keep this going on. I think they are going to postpone it. Texas Forever, however, just the amount of planning that went into it, with that amount of uncertainty, we will actually not be able to continue to be part of it if it is postponed. Just because I think the first time around we had almost 6 months to prepare. So, not having that amount of time just does not make it feasible for us to continue to be part of it.
All right. Talk with Justin Bissonnette from Inspire Pro Wrestling. So you mentioned, you know, other content. I know Inspire Pro puts out Inspire Pro TV every Sunday, collection of you know, very recent matches, classic matches from the beginnings of Inspire Pro. Is there other content that Inspire Pro is working on? Is there, you know, what else can you promote that will, you know, tell listeners, hey, go check this out, and here's a good way to support Inspire Pro and as well as other promotions. I know High Spots Wrestling Network, you know, they've been promoting a lot of stuff. Of course, Inspire Pro part of that. Just talk for a second about the different content that's available and maybe content that might be coming up.
Yeah, first of all, you kind of lean back on your catalog, right, and the footage that you do have. High Spots has a ton of independent wrestling footage, and then you just kind of start to think about how you can use that. Maybe there's some older footage that fans haven't seen or have forgotten about, and how do you highlight that? And then, you know, like a promo is only a camera and a wrestler, right? So, how do you maybe do some promo work and some video work that can let your audience see a deeper version of the wrestlers that are on your roster? And you have to get creative. We're really going to have to start thinking outside the box. Ricky Starks just recently kind of put out his own thing where he wrestled a broom. It sounds kind of silly once you put it in words, but just stuff like that, stuff that can keep you in the minds of wrestling fans, especially during this time where they're not going to get a whole lot of live wrestling.
You think the video is silly? Imagine trying to do commentary for it. So,
oh my goodness, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Biss. How do I say this? Marriott getting dragged over the coals, if you will, just because they were giving some issues to some of our wrestling colleagues about trying to cancel an event. And now I heard that they were doing some people dirty about not letting them file for unemployment. Did you have any issues with your venue when it came to getting, like, you're talking about the money that you spend? Fans might not know that you put money down for even the chairs, and you might not get all that money back.
Brett Lauderdale has worked tirelessly to be able to actually make that fairly easy on us. The biggest concern, like, we've just begun to work on that. So I know that, like, some of the travel and the plane tickets that I purchased for the Tampa show, I don't know what type of roadblocks I'm going to get into. Like, for example, some of the travel was booked through Priceline, and Priceline actually won't talk to anybody until 72 hours out from their
travel schedule,
flight time, right?
Wow.
So I'm not sure. There may be more roadblocks to come. I did see that Marriott did reach an agreement with WrestleCon today, so I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, I saw the update from WrestleCon. This is on Twitter at WrestleCon at 5:46 p.m. I assume Eastern. Thanks to Marriott West Shore for agreeing to honor the force majeure clause and not holding either our guest or WrestleCon responsible for liquidated damages. Emergency declaration by Governor DeSantis, the Florida governor, to cancel events over the next 3 days was a major factor. So it does look like WrestleCon will not have to foot that what was it, $112,000
yeah, but
bill.
it should have never came to that.
That's true. It should have. You're right. You shouldn't have. So
that's the thing. Everybody's trying to make some money. Everybody needs money right now because everything is so unsituated at the moment. Yeah. Biss, I wanted to ask you this real quick. When and if everything returns to normal, what's kind of like on the docket for Inspire Pro? What's one of the things? I know we missed out on 2 shows as it's gone by, but can you give us kind of an idea of what you had in store? Had everything just ran smooth?
Yeah, well, the goal was actually to start back up in late April.
Okay.
We were in negotiations with a what would have been a permanent building that we could have run a little bit more permanent dates out of. Now that's sort of up in the air. So our goal is to hopefully be running by May, but if this stretches on, we have nothing on paper right now. So we kind of have to play it by ear, see when this is all going to kind of figure itself out, and then start from scratch almost. So I would assume, our last show was January 19th. So
wow, that's like half a year.
Yeah, we're basically going to be doing a soft reboot by the time that we have another show.
Yeah, that was the new XC of Gold where Effie became the Pure Prestige champion. I know we had some other stuff going on. You had Thunder Rosa and Rachel Rose as the Twin Dragon Connection champions, starting to get that rolling. So, well, you know that whenever this does, go back to some semblance of normalcy, and it will eventually, and that we'll be behind Inspire Pro all the way. Obviously, you still got me as a commentator at least, so I'm there with you all the way. So, and who knows, I might be able to help out with some digital content So maybe you, Biss, you and I can get together offline and maybe talk through a few things. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely some fun stuff on the horizon if you keep an eye out on our media presence. So.
All right. Yeah, you can follow Inspire Pro Wrestling on Twitter at Inspire Pro Res. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram as well. Justin Bissonnette, Biss, the co-owner, promoter, GM, head bottle washer for Inspire Pro. Man, thanks so much for giving us your time. I know it's a rough time for everybody involved with independent wrestling. Just know we got you back. Anything we can do to help, we're there for you. All the best to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, thank you guys very much. And if I could just, if you have a favorite local independent wrestler, reach out, buy a T-shirt, buy some of their merch, help them out because this is a rough time for them as well.
Absolutely. Good reminder. Thanks, Biss.
Take care, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a great reminder by Biss. The independent wrestlers out there, they're losing out on a lot of revenue, not only from Tampa, but all the independent bookings. Nobody can run right now. So please reach out. Buy merch. Buy T-shirts, hats, pins, you name it, whether it's off Pro Wrestling Tees, highspots.com. Some of them have their own stores. I know Thunder Rosa has her own store. So, go to them on Twitter. They usually have their links on their Twitter page, and spend, if you've got some income you can spend on wrestling merch. Find your favorite independent wrestler and go buy a T-shirt, help them out. So when we get back from this timeout, we don't have any shows to promote, but we'll have a couple other notes from the world of wrestling, and then we will finish this up. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Hey, this is The Stinger, and you are listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, where it's always showtime. Tune it in, and then tear off the knob.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. It's been a weird week.
It has, but I still hate that Sting theme song.
I gotta admit, I'm partial to the old Jim Crockett Promotions.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that
pre Crow Sting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my jam right there. Surfer Sting.
Real quick, I was able to go to a wrestling event, and huge thanks to AAPW, our local wrestling school here in Austin. They had their every 2-week event at their school. It was a lot of fun. Got to do commentary with a young man that's going through their school, learning to be a commentator. So it was great to work with him. You heard Biss reference it. If you have not seen it, Ricky Starks, the former NWA television champion, he has a video out. You can find it on Twitter at StarkmanJones, on Instagram at StarkyBaby, and I believe it's on his Facebook page as well, where he wrestles a broom. And if you listen closely, you might recognize the voice doing commentary. So it was a lot of fun taking that match and making it sound like Hogan Andre from WrestleMania 3. I will tell you that. So, and a huge thanks to Ricky for asking me to do that. It was actually a lot of fun.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. So, a couple other notes. Ring of Honor Wrestling, they've announced that they are canceling all of their events through May 31st. That will include Supercard of Honor that was going to happen in Lakeland, Florida during WrestleMania weekend. They had a War of the Worlds tour with New Japan set up. Their pure title tournament was coming up soon. A tournament to crown a new women's world champion was coming up soon. But right now, all Ring of Honor events through May 31st are canceled. They'll be issuing refunds, and there's more information at ROHWrestling.com. Also, one thing, to kind of help tide you over, I got to see the new trailer and I shared it on our Twitter page at SGTWATX. The great series Dark Side of the Ring. Boy, you can tell I wrote Dark Side of the Moon. Dark Side of the Ring, which was the great series that was on Vice TV. Had the Bruiser Brody, we talked about the Bruiser Brody murder of the Von Erichs, the murder of Gino Hernandez. So, they've got a season 2 coming up. It'll be on March 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. They're going to open the season up with a 2-hour special addressing the Chris Benoit tragedy. And they've released a trailer for that, so you can see that. It's on their YouTube page, and as I said, we shared the link on our Twitter page. So check that out. I'm supposed to get a pre-screener of the episode, so when I do and when I get to watch it, I'll let you know what it looks like. I can, knowing what Dark Side of the Ring did last season, I can only imagine how good this is going to be. Not to mention, the emotions that could come out. This almost killed pro wrestling. That one incident, I would be very secure in saying that almost killed pro wrestling.
Wow. I wouldn't take it that far. It left a black eye on the industry for a good while time, but I wouldn't say that it was going to be enough to kill the industry as a whole.
I think it was close. So, thankfully it didn't, but I tell you what, it was a dark time. I remember when that happened. It was 2007.
It wasn't long ago.
In fact, I'm trying to remember. I think it was in the summer, if I'm not mistaken. And they made the announcement, and in fact, I remember that Monday Night Raw where they paid tribute to him.
Oh yeah. And
then they had to come back on SmackDown. No, it was come back because they were still running the WWE ECW, and that was on Tuesday nights on Sci-Fi Network. So they had to open up the ECW on Sci-Fi with Vince basically saying, "Look, we know we paid tribute to him. That was before we found out what happened.
Yeah.
And from this moment forward, we will never mention the name again."
And they've been pretty good about that.
They have been real. I mean, they have basically washed him from everything. I think you can still see him like in some of the old WCW Monday Nitro episodes, and I think you can even still see him on some SmackDown. But
oh no, I mean
it's but they don't reference him at all.
Like if you typed it on the network, you won't find him. But
right.
I mean, obviously his big WrestleMania match is still there.
Right.
All that stuff. You can't erase what has already been documented in this case.
That's true.
But I mean, like I can see where any self-respecting promotion is going to try to distance themselves from that.
Real quick before we get out of here, AEW. We're taping this on Tuesday night, so you're hearing it on Wednesday night on the Horn, or later via podcast. So AEW, they're going to reveal the Exalted One, and they're setting up for the Blood and Guts match. In your opinion, Blood and Guts, should it happen without an audience? Because right now it's set for Daly's Place in Jacksonville with no fans.
Well, if the biggest promotion in the world is running with no fans and essentially they're your competition and you feel that you need to compete, then go for it. If you have the talent that wants to compete, go for it.
I mean, I get that, and I totally understand that. I just if there was ever a match that was so reliant on fan reaction, I'm thinking back to not just NXT's War Games, but I'm thinking back to the old, Horseman versus Dusty, Nikita, and the Road Warriors War Games, where those fed off fan reaction. So
I know
it's
what
going to
you're
be
saying.
rough.
I know what you're saying. Crowd reaction adds a lot to the ambiance.
And that adds to any. I mean, that's a lot of wrestlers. They'll time their moves based on crowd reaction as well. So,
but let me say this though. I mean, look, I know the crowd's really important, but this is why you only saw certain people working those live matches on Raw and SmackDown, because those are the best of some of the best in-ring technicians that they have, and they know in order to go out and work a match of this style at this caliber, it takes somebody really special. So you're going to find out who actually has the pro wrestling tools to make this look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
you're
get
gonna
that.
learn. You're gonna learn who's a really good pro wrestler in the next couple of months, as opposed to just a big guy or an athletic guy.
Right.
And that goes for both men, women, whatever title you're competing for,
and whatever brand.
Yeah.
Whatever brand, whatever promotion.
Whatever promotion. Like this is the chance if you are one of those mechanic style workers, somebody that's really just. I wouldn't say ham and egg because that's a jobber, but somebody that can do everything, like old school Steve Austin, who wasn't necessarily seen as a superstar coming in. But if you have all those tools, right now is your time to shine because you can make people look good, you can make things look good without a crowd reaction, and you can sell. There could be some light for you at the end of this tunnel when everything goes back to normal in a few months.
That's true. That'll do it for this week's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You can follow Justin the Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. You can follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. Follow the station on Twitter at The Horn ATX. You can find the show on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We are proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we're proud to be part of the great lineup you hear every day. On the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns, we are The Horn. Catch us Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central on The Horn, or catch us anytime on demand by going to hornfm.com, click on the On-Air tab, or by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform. Our thanks to Brian Fritz and Justin Bissonnette for joining us, and our thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time. For Justin, I'm Stu. We hope someday we will see you at the matches.
Goodbye and good night.